if I may, maybe let's start with the fact-checking problem on a day-to-day basis. Julien, you are living this every day. What is the biggest challenge? How do you actually reach people? Is that really the main struggle that you are facing?
Yeah. Yeah, obviously the main problem when you're doing fact-checking is that you put a lot of effort in fact-checking things. So for an article you put out, sometimes you have 2 journalists working on it. It lasts for 2-3 days. And the fake information goes viral and reach hundreds of thousands of people. And then all your work that you put in your true information, you reach like, I don't know, 5,000 people, which is nothing. So it's like a drop in the ocean. So that's the main problem when you're a fact checker, and I've been doing that for 7 years already. And it's depressing, I can tell you, that you work and you work and work, and you got these guys in Albania or God knows where. It takes 2 minutes for him to put out an article which is entirely fake, made out of crap, and he reaches so many more people than you. And the main problem is, when you work for TV, I mean, TV is great, but let's be honest, we don't reach the young people anymore. The young people don't watch TV. I work for France Info, and the average viewer on France Info is probably 55. Can you believe that? 55. And these are not the people you want to reach with your true information. So I can elaborate on the way I'm trying to reach people. I'm trying to go to schools to talk to young people and to see what kind of fake news I should work on instead of staying in my office and knowing everything about everything. So I go to schools and I talk to them. And for example, they told me, yeah, we know that the hamburgers in McDonald's, they've got something that prevent people from vomiting. Like a small dot you see in the hamburgers. That was the fake news they wanted me to work on. So for me, it was insane, but I did it. And I sent a journalist to a McDonald's restaurant, and he had the proof that no, it's not something to prevent you from vomiting. So I think the main challenge for us is not doing our job as investigators, because we know we've been doing that for ages. The main problem is how do we reach young people, and I think that's crucial for democracy, because these young people are going to vote, and we need to reach them.
Yeah. So a very good point around the fact that even if we do all of our work, there is a case of, well, how do you actually scale this? How do you actually solve this problem on a wider level? I'd like to turn to Frédéric. So obviously we saw one solution with Val's of sort of trying to scale the distribution. Your newsletter provides a different approach, very innovative. How do you see it? Can you tell us a little bit about what Deep News is doing and how you see tackling this problem?
Yes, before I go with Deep News, let me give you a piece of background of what the fact-checking and fake news are. First of all, there is an issue with volume and scale. Every day on the internet, there is 100 million links which are injected on the internet. Every day. They come from roughly 80 million sources. Even if we assume that 90% of them is redundant, it left with 10 million of articles which are potential candidates for news verification. Okay, that's one thing. On the other thing, you have the whole fact-checking community, which is doing a very fine job. Right now, there is 223, I think, fact-checking outlets in the world. Most of them are affiliated with media. They are present in 73 countries, and the number of fact-checking organizations is actually growing. So that's fine. The problem is, if you take their combined input, the number of information they are able to verify on a daily basis, it's about 10,000 stories a month. So you have this huge discrepancy between the volume of the news which are available on the internet and mostly on Facebook, and the number of verification which is able to be done humanly. That's why we believe that there is a way, we must find a way to treat the misinformation at scale, some way, somehow. The problem is, right now, there is no magic solution to do machine learning fact-checking, because it doesn't work that way. It's impossible to build a machine learning, artificial intelligence-based system to actually debunk fake news. So what we did at Deepnews.ai is we took the problem in a total different way, in the opposite way actually. We decided to try to find out the signals of quality. We built a system which is basically able to process, for instance, 5,000 articles in 3 seconds, and it is able to detect the characteristic of a good article. By good article, I mean an article which has been the result of a real journalistic legwork. So the first byproduct of that is a set of newsletter. The first newsletter we launched in June. It's a free newsletter. It's called Deepnews.ai, in which every week, and sometimes we do special editions, such as the one we did for the coronavirus, we scan thousands of sources and we serve the 25 best stories. We just launched last week a set of professional newsletter, which I have paid for, which covers misinformation, autonomous vehicles, the future of food, space exploration, subjects which are mostly business oriented, which are very hot subject. And again, we call them distills. And we are, again, scanning thousands of articles, and we are distilling the best news we can get from them.
So this is really fascinating. So basically what you're saying is, rather than, people are currently eating lots of junk food, rather than trying to make every sort of junk food healthy, let's just put them on a healthier diet, right?
I mean, the metaphor I use is that I take a glass of water, which is going to contain really bad stuff, toxic stuff, but as well as nutriment. And what I'm building is, I'm building the magnet that will sit at the top of the glass of water, which will be able to lift the good stuff from the bad. This is what we are doing.
Okay, great, fantastic. You also touched upon a topic which is essentially how the news is created really at a tremendous scale and sort of spread across the world with social media. I'd like to hold that thought because I think everyone is going to have some pretty strong opinions about it. But before that, maybe let's jump into it. Julien, can you maybe walk us through the sort of the reality of a fact check, right? For the audience who sort of doesn't really understand get a sense of that process, because we are really, as you say, in a David and Goliath kind of battle. 10,000 a month on one end, and how many a day? 100 million? 100 million a day. There seems to be a slight disproportion here. What makes fact-checking so difficult?
Well, you want me to explain how we work, basically?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, every morning we wake up and we try to scan the internet, scan social networks to see which are the hottest fake news. What's important is not to work on anything that's not shared widely. Because otherwise, as a journalist, if you take a tiny fake news and you put it on TV, then you're part of the problem because you'll make it become a huge fake news. Mm-hmm. So it's very important you only pick the fake news that are already widely circulated. Mm. And then there are several ways of fact-checking. It's a fascinating way. I mean, I love that word. There's one part which is really about technology. So for instance, you've got this image of Greta Thunberg doing something horrible. You can see that every day now. She's attacked by everybody. And you're going to see if you have clues in the photo that help you decipher the photo and show that the photo is fake. Mm-hmm. So that's the technological part of my work. We use computers, we use apps, we use all sorts of equipment that help us verify it. And then there's the other part of my work, which I even like best, is the regular traditional investigation, which means we get out of our office, we go to the world, and we try to fact-check things in the real world. Because very often, you need to get out of your newsroom and just actually talk to people and go out there. Mm-hmm. And then the last part of my work, and we talked about that already, is now I've checked my information, how do I reach to people? And one of the things I do, maybe you've seen the small videos I do on the internet, I go to the streets with billboards, basically real billboards, and I write the fake news on my billboards, and I showed it to random people on the streets. So at first people thought I was a lunatic, like, with my billboards. What the fuck is he doing? But it's fascinating because you talk to people that nobody talks to. Mm-hmm. They're not going to go to my Facebook page. I'll never reach them with my Twitter account. But on the street, they have no other option than talk to me because I face them. And that's the last part of it. I reach them.
Okay, so that there you have a captive audience in the street, very modestly saying them videos. I've watched them, very entertaining, very sort of captivating. But it does feel like this is something that you said here, which is, you have all of these fakes being spread, and essentially, if you as a fact checker pick one and start to put it on air and distribute it, well, then people start to doubt, right? Well, why is it saying, it's almost like you're spreading, as soon as people hear one version, even if you're saying the correct version, you already start to pollute there is a risk of pollution of the minds, right? That's why you only pick the important ones. Yes, go ahead.
They will doubt because the language he will use, the language that the fact checker are going to use, is a language of moderation, is a language of precisely facts. The problem is that online, especially on social media and especially on Facebook, we live in a world in which facts are no longer important and emotion has taken over facts. I mean, years ago when I was working at Les Echos, we had a discussion with Facebook and we are asking what should we do, what kind of stuff we should put on the Les Echos on Facebook, and the guys say, you should put emotion, which is kind of difficult in kind of business use, because there are very few business use which are very emotional. But still, this is the way Facebook works. And the reason why a guy like Donald Trump, and I bet with everyone in the room that Donald Trump will be re-elected thanks to Facebook. Because he has the machine, he has the language. I mean, Facebook and fake news reward incendiary language. They reward extreme language and this stuff. And regardless of the work of fact checker, which I deem as absolutely essential to preserve democracy, the decibels of their voice, if you want, will be always way lower than someone who is screaming. And guess what? Facebook is actually rewarding the one who is screaming. So
I should start screaming and insulting people, right?
I mean, no, I mean, you're good in your role, but the fact of the matter is, whatever the raw information you will, verified information you will be able to put, it will have a much lower voice than the one who is screaming fake stuff and bullshit stuff, basically.
Okay. So can I turn to you, Val? Because I think that your approach is actually trying to solve this specifically, and then I guess feel free to turn towards how do we actually deal with Facebook, because that is very much the elephant in the room here. Please, how do you sort of try to scale this kind of problem and maybe kill it in the bud, actually, before it becomes an issue?
Right. So I've mentioned the technological solution, which is aimed at delivery, right? Which is basically the problem everyone is suffering of today, right? So if everyone has an opportunity to download a free application or a plugin and actually can see somebody marking their news red or green and explaining why is it a fake or why is it a fact, that's an immediate solution. But as you've truly noticed, there's a problem of discrepancy. There's so many more fake news than there are fact checkers. So what we are thinking of doing, on top of technological solution, which will work both ways, right? It'll provide all of us with debunks on one hand side, and on the other hand side, it should be a platform for those who can potentially become fact checkers to actually do the fact checking jobs while we are waiting for the AI to catch up and actually do it for us. And in order to do that, making it just popular and interesting is not enough. We honestly believe in the free market. We honestly believe that if you put the money where the fact checkers are, if you motivate people to actually get engaged in the process while providing serious due diligence, while providing serious controls, while providing serious oversight, you can actually get people to become fact checkers. I mean, it's like a new profession. Recently, there were no Uber Eats drivers or riders or bikers, whatever. Next thing you know, every town you go to, they're all over the place with their big food boxes, right? So if you think about it, if you make it a thing, if you gamify it, if you make it interesting, if you motivate people to engage in the profession, we can even out the numbers a little bit. And if you talk about your immediate surrounding, you're talking about the older people that are watching the TV, right? I mean, they all have kids. They all have grandkids, right? If their kids and their grandkids actually spend a time of their day browsing through their site with their little plugin and saying, Grandma, Grandpa, come on, what are you guys doing? You're shaming me. maybe let's do something about it.
So basically go and police grandma's Facebook page, yes?
Sometimes maybe it is a thing to do. But
Okay.
be gentle, it's a grandma.
Yeah, of course, always with lots of love. So this idea of commercialization, of sort of, kind of, what are your thoughts on this, Julien? How do you see this kind of, your role in this kind of ecosystem? Do you see this as something that can potentially scale it?
Yeah, I saw your presentation, and I actually had a question for you, because you show, like if Facebook, at the bottom of every article, you'd have a small, sign saying this is true, this is false. But the article you took was very revealing, because you took like Facebook is an American platform. I think everybody knows that. And the article you took was by Russia Today, which is Russian. And can you imagine Facebook putting labels like false on Russia Today news? I mean, you're gonna burst the internet. People are gonna go crazy. You see what I mean? Because of course, I know Russia Today circulate also false information. No question about that. But from a Russian perspective, you go to Facebook and there's an American dude saying, "Well, you're fake news." Wow, it's difficult to, it's like Facebook would run the world, like say who's true, who's false. That's critical.
Val, if you can just hold a second. Frédéric, you want to jump in?
The problem with fact-checking on Facebook is that it simply doesn't work. Right now, Facebook rely on a system which is called TPFC, third-party fact-checkers, which are deployed across the world in many organizations. I think you are a member of them at France Info. And basically, they are reliable.
No, we're not working with Facebook on that. Yeah.
Okay.
We
So my
decided not
mistake.
to.
Okay, but for instance, there is Agence France Presse. Agence France Presse has a network of dozens of bureaus across the world, and they are very well positioned to actually do some kind of fact-checking. So the way it works is that when a story is flagged on any one newsfeed as a suspicious, Agence France Presse will be notified, and they will check the information. They might debunk the information, and they will issue some kind of notice. And if the information is actually false, the information will fall down into the algorithm, and so on and so forth. The problem is that Facebook will not notify the person who already have seen this information that they have been misled. Mm-hmm. It means that the false information will have lived its life during hours, maybe a couple of days, but at some point, Agence France Presse is going to say, hey guys, this stuff is total bullshit, here is the real fact. But the problem is no one will see that. And my problem with Facebook, it is that it is done by design. So Facebook is not sincere at all when it comes of doing news verification.
Valentin, very quickly a rebuttal, and then go ahead.
Just a quick rebuttal. I mean, this is why we're not relying on Facebook actually integrating our algorithm. The algorithm, by the way, is we're sourcing the information from the fact checkers, right? And we match the news on the Facebook with something that's already been debunked. We are not fact checkers ourselves. We're the middlemen. We're the delivery procedure. And going back to, wait a second.
Frédéric.
Yeah, there you go. Going back to the Facebook, the reason we're not relying on it is just because you said it's not probably going to be our ally in the fight. That's why we're building a third-party application. That's why we're building a plugin that everybody can install on their desktop. And trust me, from a marketing standpoint, we understand that it's an extra step and it makes us, slower, but it's something we have to do.
Okay. All right. Now that I want to jump to the question about Facebook, so very briefly, I'll start with you, Frédéric. Yesterday evening, we had this discussion about, if we think about Facebook as the Roman Empire, the roads that connect sort of civilization, right now there are bandits on those roads, right? They have an empire that is connecting the whole world. Lots of pirates and bad actors are running around. Why is it such a problem to get them to actually get involved in policing those roads?
To involve who?
To get Facebook to start to police the roads.
Because Facebook is basically flourishing on false information. If you take what's going on in the United States right now with the political election, Facebook refuses to remove false political advertising. On the one hand, they are saying that political advertising is not important money-wise for them because it's making just a few percentage. But Mark Zuckerberg say that, quote unquote, political ads is part of the voice So that's one problem. The other problem is due to the American regulation. There is a tiny regulation in the United States which is called Section 230 of the Communication Decency Act, which basically exonerate platforms of any libel, any defamation charges. It means that if you are an American organization, of course a European one, you are bound by label laws. You cannot put everything online. But this kind of platform, because they are protected as being just a mere pipe of distribution, they are exonerated. So that's
So basically the money is pushing them in the wrong way, but maybe there is, some legal changes could actually change the situation. Julien.
I mean, Facebook should probably be with us today, because we have so many questions to them. So I'm not going to be their, attorney, but they're trying to do things. Not because they realize that they wanted to do good to the world, but because they feel the heat coming. The American election is coming. The Congress, Democrats, they know they're going to usually favor Donald Trump, and they are on Mark Zuckerberg's back at the moment. So I think even though Facebook is not really willing to do it because he doesn't make money out of it. He makes money out of fake news, definitely. But at the moment, I think it will have to react, because the legislators in the US, they're not kidding about it. It's crucial, because the last election, they believe that maybe they lost it because of Facebook. And let's take a look at the French election. Everywhere in the world now, every election, you got a fake news campaign in a few months going to the election. Every election. India, a few months ago. France in 2017. And the next election is coming up. So I'm pretty sure that all the legislators around the world are going to tackle this issue. And I'm not that pessimistic. I think at some point,
if you look at the fact you mentioned,
have to do something.
If you look at the fact you mentioned, the Indian election, okay? Indian election has been largely twisted by WhatsApp. WhatsApp is a Facebook company, unit. And WhatsApp accounts for 56% of the Indian population is on WhatsApp right now. Facebook wait until 1 year before the election to hire its first person in India in charge of WhatsApp. The first person in India. In Mexico, during the recent presidential election, they have 6 people working at debunking fake news. So the problem with fake news, they only do some stuff in reaction to the potential PR damage that they are facing.
But I think the pressure on them. That's for sure.
I think that the point is the pressure. I'm sorry, I'm going to wrap it up, but I actually want to leave on this sort of what I will say is a slightly high note, right? Because on the one hand, yes, we see that we have an incredibly challenging problem, but we have a solution that is being built to nip it in the bud before the distribution is really, tackling the masses. So maybe we can scale the efforts. We have new ways of reaching people, going towards the young, educating them that might actually, have fruits over the long term. And we have an approach that is essentially saying, well, stop with this tainted diet of, fake news everywhere. We actually have a solution to get you the good stuff directly. So for the first time, having been to media conferences for many years, they always end very depressing. This one is actually ending very positively. There are solutions, although there is a lot of challenges, and we do need to put pressure on the social media so that they also come to the table. Thank you very much for this very lively discussion. Let's give it up for our guests.
Thank you.